Das war der einzige Grund, warum ich die letzte Staffel machen wollte, um das tun zu können.
Alan Alda is remembered by millions as a warm, intelligent, and thoughtful actor, especially because of his legendary role as Hawkeye Pierce in the TV show MASH star. Many people see him as a man who always tried to make others feel comfortable, someone who cared deeply about kindness, honesty, and respect. But even a good person can face conflict, and even a respected leader can find himself at the center of disagreements. In fact, Alda's long career shows something important. When someone becomes a creative leader, when their ideas start shaping the direction of a show or project, the people around them do not always react the same way. Some admire that leadership, some accept it quietly, and others struggle with it. In the case of MASH*, several actors who worked closely with Alan Alda eventually faced tension, misunderstandings, or emotional distance. Some left the show, some stayed but felt overshadowed, and some had personal challenges that made the work environment difficult. This transcript will explore these hidden sides, not to judge anyone, but to understand how human relationships change when a show grows, when fame arrives, and when artistic vision becomes stronger than before. One of the earliest and most important examples is Wayne Rogers. He played Trapper John, Hawkeye's partner and equal during the first seasons of MASH star. At the beginning, Wayne Rogers and Alan Alda looked like the perfect pair. Their quick jokes, timing, and teamwork helped build the identity of the show. The two characters were rebels, troublemakers, and friends who always stood together against military rules that made no sense. Fans loved watching them, and their chemistry was natural and powerful. But behind the scenes, things were slowly changing. As the show became more popular, Alan Alda's character, Hawkeye, began to take a bigger place in the story. Writers created more emotional moments for him, more moral lessons, and more important scenes. At the same time, Trapper John began losing lines, losing depth, and losing attention. Wayne Rogers felt that the balance between the two characters was disappearing. He had joined the show believing he would be one of the two leads, but slowly he felt like he was becoming a background character. The situation grew even more complicated when Alda began directing episodes and influencing the tone of the show. Although Alda did not try to push anyone out, the natural growth of his influence made others feel like their own space was shrinking. Wayne Rogers tried to talk about these feelings, but eventually, he realized he no longer felt creatively respected. His decision to leave MASH* came from this frustration. Alda later said he understood and respected the choice, but fans always wondered if something deeper was happening behind the scenes, something that could not be fixed simply with conversation. The second major conflict involved McLean Stevenson, who played Colonel Henry Blake. Stevenson was one of the warmest and funniest parts of the show. His soft personality brought a calming energy to the chaos of the military camp. Fans saw him as a lovable leader, someone who tried hard but struggled in a charming way. But McLean Stevenson had dreams beyond comedy. He wanted to show more serious acting, he wanted more variety, and he wanted to grow within the show. However, as MASH* became more connected to Alda's storytelling goals, Stevenson felt his opportunities shrinking. He saw more dramatic scenes going to Hawkeye, more emotional lessons centered on Alda's character, and more focus on the themes Alda cared about. Even though Stevenson was talented, the direction of the show did not support his personal goals. He eventually asked to leave the series. The writers created one of the most shocking exits in TV history by writing Colonel Blake's death into the storyline. That emotional moment changed MASH* forever, and some fans blamed Alda's growing influence for the shift in tone. Alda always explained that Stevenson left by choice, not by pressure. But again, the timing made people wonder if the creative center of the show was becoming too focused on Alda, leaving others feeling left behind. While Wayne Rogers and McLean Stevenson had direct professional conflicts connected to their roles, Robert Duvall represents a very different kind of tension. Duvall never acted with Alda, because he appeared in the original MASH* movie, not the TV series. He played Major Frank Burns in the film, and his version of the character was extremely harsh, serious, and intense. The movie itself had a darker, colder tone, filled with cynicism and emotional distance. When Alda joined the TV adaptation, he felt strongly that the show should not follow the same path as the movie. He believed MASH* could use humor in a more meaningful way. He wanted the show to focus on humanity, on the emotional cost of war, and on the importance of empathy. This difference in artistic vision created a symbolic conflict between Alda's idea of the show and the original movie's tone. Even though Duvall and Alda never argued directly, Duvall often criticized how the TV show became softer and more emotional. Alda, meanwhile, felt that the show needed heart to survive and grow. These two visions showed how challenging it can be to balance realism and emotional storytelling. While Duvall's performance was powerful, Alda's approach helped the series become one of the most beloved shows in history. Another important example is Gary Berghoff, who played Radar O'Reilly. Radar was the sweet, caring clerk who seemed to know everything before it happened. His innocence made him the soul of the show, and audiences adored him. But behind the scenes, Berghoff had emotional struggles. He was easily hurt, easily stressed, and sometimes distant or moody. These traits made teamwork difficult at times. Alda respected Berghoff's talent deeply, but even he admitted that Radar's emotional sensitivity sometimes created tension on set. Eventually, Berghoff felt overwhelmed and worn down. The long filming hours, the pressure of fame, and the emotional demands of the role became too much. When he left the show, his departure added to the pattern. Another important figure was gone, leaving behind questions about how much the growing weight of Alda's leadership affected the environment. All these examples show a very human story. Alan Alda was not a villain. He did not hurt anyone on purpose. But leadership is complex. When someone becomes the center of creative power, others around them react in different ways. Some accept the change, some struggle quietly, and some decide to leave. MASH** was a groundbreaking series, but it was also a workplace full of real people with real feelings, hopes, and dreams. Understanding the conflicts around Alda helps us appreciate not only the show but also the difficult balance between kindness and leadership, between cooperation and creative vision. As MASH** continued to grow, Alan Alda found himself becoming not only the face of the show but also one of its most important creative voices. This change did not happen overnight. In the beginning, Alda was simply one actor among many, performing his role as Hawkeye with humor, charm, and emotional depth. But the producers and writers quickly realized he had something more, a strong understanding of storytelling, a desire to explore deeper themes, and a natural ability to shape a scene. Over time, Alda was given more responsibility. He started helping with scripts, he asked questions about character development, and he offered ideas that made the show more thoughtful and emotional. Eventually, he began writing and directing episodes. This kind of growth is common when an actor shows strong leadership, but in the world of television, such growth can also create tension. Some people appreciate it. Others feel threatened by it. And some struggle because they want the same opportunities but don't receive them. This is exactly what happened on MASH**, and understanding this helps explain why several cast members felt overshadowed or unhappy as the show moved forward. The character of Hawkeye Pierce, played by Alda, became the emotional heart of the show. He was not only the main source of humor but also the main voice of compassion, frustration, and moral conflict. Many of the most memorable episodes centered on Hawkeye's inner struggles, his exhaustion, his anger at the war, his desire to help others, and his attempts to stay human in an inhuman situation. These emotional stories made the audience love him more, but they also meant that other characters received fewer chances to shine. For actors like Wayne Rogers and McLean Stevenson, who both wanted deeper and more meaningful roles, this shift was especially difficult. They were not jealous of Alda's talent. They were frustrated that their own opportunities were shrinking. In any creative project, when one person becomes the center, others naturally feel pushed outward. That does not make Alda a bad person, it simply shows how complicated creative teamwork can be when the spotlight begins to focus on one person more than others. Alda's influence also shaped the tone of the show. The early seasons of MASH** were wild, chaotic, and full of pranks and jokes. But as the show matured, Alda encouraged a balance between comedy and emotional reflection. He believed that humor meant more when it came from characters who were hurting, struggling, or trying to survive a terrible situation. He wanted the audience to laugh, but he also wanted them to think and feel. This kind of storytelling requires more serious scenes, more emotional moments, and more quiet reflection. For some actors, this was exciting, they enjoyed tackling deeper material. But for others, it felt like the show was drifting away from the original style they had signed up for. McLean Stevenson, in particular, often felt that the series was moving in a direction that didn't fit his strengths. He was naturally funny, naturally warm, and naturally light-hearted. But the show was becoming more complex, more serious, and more focused on moral lessons. He wanted to show that he could do more, but he never felt he was given that chance. When he left the show, many people blamed Alda, but the reality was more nuanced. Stevenson left because he felt unfulfilled, not because Alda pushed him out. However, the fact that Alda's creative influence was growing made it easy for viewers to make that connection. Another factor that affected relationships on MASH** was the pressure of fame. When a show becomes a cultural phenomenon, everyone feels the weight, some thrive under it, while others struggle. Alan Alda thrived. He became more confident, more involved, and more passionate about the show's direction. But this also meant he carried a heavier emotional load. He had to think not just about his own acting but also about the show's quality, its message, and its future. This level of responsibility can make someone seem more serious, more focused, or more distant. Some cast members may have misinterpreted Alda's intensity as controlling behavior when, in reality, he was simply trying to protect the heart of the show. Gary Berghoff's struggles offer a different example of tension. Berghoff's character, Radar, was loved by everyone, and he had some of the most emotional scenes in the entire series. But Berghoff himself had a sensitive personality. He felt criticism deeply, and he sometimes took harmless comments as personal attacks. Even though Alda cared about him and respected his talent, working with someone so emotionally fragile can be challenging. Berghoff often felt stressed, overwhelmed, or misunderstood. Small disagreements sometimes felt much larger to him. By the time he decided to leave the show, he was emotionally exhausted. Alda later explained that Berghoff was incredibly gifted but also carried a lot of emotional weight, which made his experience on the show difficult. Again, Alda was not the cause of Berghoff's struggles, but his position as the unofficial leader of the cast made him the center of tension, even when he was not directly involved. The creative direction of the show also caused disagreement among people who were not part of the main cast. Some writers wanted MASH** to remain a pure comedy. Others wanted it to be a darker, more realistic story. Alda believed it should be a blend of both. This put him in the middle of creative debates throughout multiple seasons. Some writers supported his vision fully and even admired him for it. Others felt that Alda's influence limited their own storytelling style. These disagreements rarely turned into personal fights, but they still created strain behind the scenes. When someone holds as much respect as Alda did, people sometimes feel nervous disagreeing with him. That can create quiet frustration, even if nobody says it out loud. These subtle tensions influenced the overall atmosphere on set. The reactions from fans also added pressure. Viewers often assumed Alda controlled everything in the show, even more than he actually did. This caused some misunderstandings among the cast. For example, when writing decisions angered the audience, people blamed Alda unfairly. When beloved characters left, some blamed Alda even when those actors made the decision themselves. It's difficult to work under that kind of public scrutiny. Alda cared deeply about his castmates, but he could not control the way fans interpreted events. The more popular he became, the more responsibility people placed on him, even when he did not deserve it. By the later seasons, Alda's leadership was no longer just creative, it was emotional. Cast members came to him for advice, guidance, and support. He tried to help them through stressful days, difficult scenes, and personal struggles. But being the emotional anchor for so many people is exhausting. Sometimes Alda felt alone in the responsibility he carried. While others saw him as strong and confident, he often carried the worry that he might be disappointing someone. Leadership looks easy from the outside, but behind the scenes, it can create loneliness, pressure, and fear. All these layers of tension, creative, emotional, personal, and professional, shape the relationships on MASH**. They explain why some actors felt overshadowed, why some decided to leave, and why misunderstandings developed even among talented, kind people. The show was not only a piece of television history, it was also a workplace filled with real human emotions. Alan Alda was not perfect, but he cared deeply about the show, and sometimes his passion made others feel left out or unheard. These conflicts were not born from hate. They were born from ambition, dreams, stress, and the natural struggles that happen whenever creative people work closely together on something that becomes bigger than any of them expected. As we continue exploring Clint Eastwood's journey, we reach a point in his life where many people would have slowed down or even retired, but Clint did the opposite. In fact, the older he became, the more powerful and confident his creative voice grew. This stage of his life is important because it teaches us that age does not decide your worth, and it does not limit your ability to create something meaningful. Clint understood that his years of experience were not a disadvantage, they were his greatest strength. The wisdom he gained from decades of acting, directing, and facing the ups and downs of Hollywood allowed him to approach filmmaking with a calm and focused mind. Instead of worrying about being liked or staying trendy, he concentrated on telling honest stories. Stories that felt real. Stories that spoke directly to the heart of the audience. Many directors in Hollywood face pressure to follow trends or rely on big visual effects, but Clint always believed in simplicity. He believed that if you show real emotion, real conflict, and real human struggle, people will connect with the film no matter how old they are or where they come from. This belief guided him when he made films like Gran Torino, $1 Million Baby, and The Mule, where the focus is not on flashy action or expensive sets but on human relationships and inner battles. In these movies, he often plays characters who are imperfect, flawed, and sometimes even difficult to like. But that is exactly why the audience connects with them, because they feel real. Clint never tries to make himself look like a hero. Instead, he shows the world that even broken people can find healing, purpose, and courage. This honesty gives his films a unique emotional power. Another thing that makes this stage of his career special is his discipline. Clint is known for working quickly, respecting everyone on set, and trusting his team. He does not waste time, and he does not shoot scenes over and over again unless it's necessary. Actors often say that working with Clint feels comfortable and peaceful because he never raises his voice or creates pressure. He allows actors to explore their roles and encourages natural performances. This calm working style is very different from many big Hollywood productions, where stress and chaos are often part of the job. Clint's approach reminds us that leadership does not have to be loud, it can be quiet, steady, and respectful. His personal philosophy also shaped his career. He believes in taking responsibility, staying true to his values, and avoiding excuses. When he decides to do something, he commits fully. This mindset helped him build a long and successful career, even when critics doubted him. There were many times when people said he was too old, too slow, or out of date, but he simply stayed focused on his work. And in the end, his films proved that passion and dedication matter more than age or what others think. But perhaps the most inspiring part of Clint's later years is his willingness to stay curious and open to new ideas. Even after decades in the film industry, he continues to learn, experiment, and try new things. This is a reminder for all of us, no matter how much we achieve in life, there is always more to discover. His ability to remain humble, hungry, and creative shows that true success is not about reaching a final destination, it is about continuing to grow. In fact, one of the reasons Clint's late career films feel so authentic is because he pours real emotions and life experiences into them. The themes of regret, forgiveness, loneliness, and second chances come from a place of personal understanding. Clint has faced hardships, criticisms, and challenges, but instead of hiding them, he uses them to tell stories that touch millions of people. That vulnerability is what makes him both a respected artist and a relatable human being. Many fans admire Clint not only because of his talent but because of his resilience. Hollywood is a place where careers rise and fall very quickly, and staying successful for more than 60 years is extremely rare.